This is Nattering with E with your host, Eric Friedlander. What up, world? It's your boy E coming at you from the Nattering with E studios. Just letting you know, if you'd ever like to come on an episode to Natter with E, totally get a hold of me. You can reach us on the Nattering with E Instagram page, my personal Twitter, E_Freeds, or if you just somehow see me on the street or in person and say, hey E, I would love to be on the show, we'll make it work. All right, cool.
On Saturdays, we listen to Nattering with E, because if you're about to hurl from taking a tilt-a-whirl, your ears better be free.
On this week's episode of Nattering with E, I'm joined by good buddy and frequent guest on the show, if you've been listening to us for a while, Mr. Brundan Haney, a.k.a. Irish Misfit, a.k.a. the guy who knows the most about wrestling in the Wizards and Revelry wrestling world. Step into the Nattering with E podcast and come and join us for a wild ride. What up, world? It's your boys Brundan and Eric back for another episode of Nattering with E Wrestling Talk. Tentative title, as you'll hear in the commercial. We're still looking for titles for our name for this part of the pod. So today we're gonna pull a Booker T. No, we're not gonna be crotchety and old. Instead, we're gonna have some lists. Top fives. You'll hear the topics shortly. And Brundan, before we begin, what is going on, my friend?
Nothing much, man. Glad to be on here again. It was a long, rough week, and I'm glad to end it doing something like this and wind it down and just having fun.
Absolutely,
little, chicken soup podcast for the soul, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chicken soup. Oh, that should be our show name. Brundan and Eric's Chicken Soup Pal Drivers.
I don't even know, keeping with the theme, I don't even know if chicken soup would be a top 5 soup, but
that's true.
Yeah.
As long as it's not one of Handsome Kevin's from the Shining Wizards, like festival salads or whatever the heck he was eating.
Oh, goodness gracious me. No, chicken soup is no sun chips.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
I like sun chips, just not, I don't look for it at a barbecue.
When that made his top 5, I was like, get this guy off here. Put Kate on full time.
Yeah. I think I was yelling in my car, like, what is this guy thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
But, it's opinion.
Yeah, I guess so. And we're full of opinions here. We're gonna be doing a bunch of different topics for top 5. So because it's wrestling themed, most of it's gonna be wrestling themed, some's gonna be casual. So let's start with your first top 5. What's our topic, Brundan?
What do you say we start with wrestlers? Okay. Do you want to do this? We probably should have talked about it in pre-production, but this is our podcast. We can fly by hell.
Yeah,
you want to do, I'll hit you with one, you hit me with one, and then we'll go on from there.
Sure, we can like rant about them and whatever, and it'll be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
yeah. So yeah, our top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. I don't know how I'm gonna, really determine all of mine. I'm still even to this second, I'm still mulling over mine in my head, but I got a good amount, I think.
Yeah, because I was thinking of like, do we go 1 to 5, 5 to 1, 3 to 1, 3, 4, 5? I don't know.
To be honest, I don't even think I could do like, oh, this guy is my all-time favorite. Nobody. Like, I like a lot of wrestlers. There's not many wrestlers I don't like, except for The Miz and Larry Zbyszko and garbage like that. But
and those guys from CZW in our first episode.
Oh yeah, DJ Hyde. He doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to be on TV for me to count that.
Oh, good qualifier. Yeah.
But yeah, I think for mine, I'm gonna spitball and say these are my favorite 5 wrestlers. Not quite a 1 to 5, but these are the 5 guys that I could watch forever.
Perfect.
Yeah. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. I was gonna say, before we start, do you want to do any like can't be's? So, for instance, can't be part of the Heart Dungeon. Can't be. Uh,
I mean, wrestlers, it's hard to do a can't be. Can't be David Arquette, maybe.
yeah. Because I know everybody loves Bret Hart except me. I love Luger, so I'll start with Lex Luger. I always thought 30 years ago when I first started watching wrestling, geez, I'm going to be 35 in about 2 weeks from when this is posted. And
You're just a kid.
yeah, Luger was my first like, oh my God, this is the man sort of thing. He sort of reminded me the way that they gave him that push in '94 and the WWF, now WWE. He sort of reminds me of like John Cena in '07, where like you could like Cena was the guy and you were going to accept it whether you liked it or not. So
Yeah,
Luger at the time, like he was for the kids, he was for the uh youngins growing up.
that
As I
was
meant, sorry,
that
go
was
ahead.
kind of the WWF way, where we're gonna pick a guy, we're gonna push him, and you're gonna love him. So like I would say like Bob Backlund was one, and he was great. He was over, but he will, he may not have been as over as like a San Martino or Morales.
Mm-hmm.
Hogan, and Hogan obviously was over, but then yeah, Cena, Luger, Kevin Nash.
I was gonna say I don't know if Diesel was ever a face though during that
Yeah.
run.
Oh yeah, yeah. During his whole championship run, he was a face
Yeah.
until literally the night he lost it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Michaels and him split up at the Survivor Series, and then 2 days later he won the belt from Backlund in MSG.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Luger was I'll say he's number five for me.
yeah. Luger,
What?
I'll give it to you. Luger's a pretty good choice. I didn't like him in that mid '90s run with WCW, but that's because I was an NWO guy, and I was like, yeah, Luger. But yeah, in the run you're talking about, I was a Luger fan. I've come to enjoy him, some of his stuff more, ironically, these days. Watching him, the crowd loved him in that '97
Yeah.
run.
Yeah. Looking
He was
back at it,
over. So
I
yeah,
completely forgot that he had beat Hogan for the title and then like dropped it like 5 days later.
yep,
It was one of those like you're like, yes, he finally reached the mountaintop, but
yep,
like he definitely was not '94 Luger anymore. He was WCW Luger. Although I
yeah,
loved him and Sting in NWO Wolfpack. I really like that group of guys.
yeah. Goatee Luger,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Goatee Luger was cool.
Yeah.
But that was another one. He won the U.S. title as Goatee Luger, Wolfpack Luger. Lost it on Thunder 3 days later.
I remember like near the death of WCW, which we could do a whole other episode on.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember he and Buff Bagwell were feuding with Goldberg, and Goldberg cut this
Yeah,
promo where he literally said he wasn't going to hurt them, he was going to kill them, like literally kill them. And I
yep,
remember being like 13, 14 at the time, being like, I don't know if he can say that. Like he literally just said he was going to commit a homicide on TV.
yeah.
Like,
And especially of
crazy.
all places to WCW, where they have all the international objects and all that crap. You can't say stuff like that. You can't say foreign objects. You can't do blood on TV. It's almost like how the WWE has it now,
Yeah,
with
exactly.
going to a local medical facility and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, who would be your number five?
Um, I would say, you know what? I'll throw him out there. My first favorite wrestler as a kid was Andre the Giant, and you know, yeah, I'm a little older, so I remember Andre as I kind of liked it. I liked him before he turned on Hogan. I stuck with it, and then I liked him. I like him after he broke up with Haku. So I definitely missed the major Andre Prime, which Andre's Prime in the '70s is no other. Like not a lot of stuff exists from it, but that man was jumping from the top rope at times. He could do a little chain wrestling at times. He was something else. But I mean, me like everybody, most other kids a little older than me and everything, will all say we're big Andre fans.
Yeah, I remember. Well, the first memory everybody has of like in my generation of Andre is Hogan body slamming him at I think it was Mania 3, right?
Mania 3, yeah, main event body slam in front of 93 finger quote people, thousand people.
Yeah, so what's interesting?
Skydome.
Oh yeah, at the Skydome. Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Up here in Toronto, now
Yeah.
known as the Rogers Center, which
Right?
I
No, I'm wrong. Not the Skydome. That was in Detroit.
oh yeah.
Ugh.
Ford something? Ford Field? No.
Uh, not the
Wait,
Superdome is what
let me
Hogan
look it up.
called it. This at the one there was a WrestleMania where Hogan got it mixed up.
The Pontiac
Silverdome.
Silverdome. Yeah,
Silverdome.
yeah.
Yeah. So I pulled a Hogan and, mixed up Skydome, Superdome, Silverdome.
Hey man, as long as you don't pull some other stuff from Hogan.
Nope, nope,
That's
nope,
a-
nope. Those words don't leave my mouth.
yeah. I remember seeing I think it was Hogan's son. He's talking to him in video footage where he's like, maybe that other guy who you got in the accident with did deserve it.
Oh
I like
Jesus.
it literally like went all over social media and you're just like, oh my god. And this is like 2009 and you're just like, how is he not canceled? Now like present day he'd be done, you know?
Yeah, yeah. He's gone it's amazing how much stuff he's gone through and he's skated through and yep, he keeps going on. But
Yes. So,
yeah. Anyways, not here to talk about Hogan because he doesn't crack my top five.
yeah, for sure.
I
Uh
would recommend also the Andre the Giant autobiography
oh
that
yeah.
came out a couple of years ago. That was an unbelievable read. So, yeah,
Oh,
anybody who wants to learn about Andre, that's a must read.
that and Bill Simmons's HBO documentary.
Yes,
That
yeah,
one was excellent
yeah.
too on Andre. Yeah, it was great.
Mhm.
And then I've never seen Princess Bride, but apparently he was exceptional.
Absolute must watch.
Yeah, I got it.
Loved Princess Bride. Andre was fantastic in it. So,
I
yeah,
think
it was awesome.
I think it's on Disney Plus, so I got to
Probably.
check that
Yeah.
out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting too. While we're here, I'd be talking WrestleMania 3, Andre versus Hogan. I'd be remiss to not mention Steamboat versus Savage. Uh,
Yes.
that brings me like that match is probably I would argue it's probably the best WrestleMania match I've ever seen. Those two just told an epic story. For the match went just under 15 minutes, but like
Yeah.
the for all the 60-minute Okada versus Kenny matches that we see present day, 15 minutes is all you needed back then, and these guys could tell like a crazy story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's definitely one of the top matches. I don't know if it's my all-time favorite WrestleMania match, but it's up there. That's for sure. Yeah.
so I would say going into my fourth pick, Ricky Steamboat would be number 4 for me.
Can't go wrong with that.
My earliest memories of Ricky Steamboat were in WCW when he started off. Oh no, maybe it was ROH actually, where he had that like
Really?
that feud with CM Punk.
Yes, where they
Where,
couldn't wrestle, so they would have conversations. I was
yeah,
there for a few of those. They
yeah.
had a couple of those in New Jersey.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I gotta come to New Jersey, or you gotta come to Toronto, or both. So, but I just remember like so Steamboat. You hear about I remember hearing about the legendary match between him and Savage from the 80s, right? But
Yeah,
like in the early 2000s when he's having this feud with CM Punk, like 2004 roughly, I think it was about
I think.
16. I,
Mhm.
yeah, I think I was about 16. And I was just like, when you hear about a guy like where you're like, oh, this guy had a legendary career back in his day, and now he's like um, semi-retired, and he's someone you should go look up their matches. That to me was Steamboat back then
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I remember liking CM Punk from his time with Julio De Niro as Ravens Ravens guys in
yeah. The
TNA,
Gathering.
The Gathering. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And then he and then I discovered his ROH run, CM Punk, and I was just like, wow, like this guy is like so much better than what TNA is giving him. And then they're like, yeah, we're gonna have him have these confrontations with Steamboat, and I'm like, what? And then I remember with Steamboat, I think he was one of the legends. Do you remember when they put over Nexus, Wade Barrett's version of Nexus in
Mm.
2010, where they beat up all the legends and Bryan Danielson got fired for choking out Justin Roberts with
No, that one wasn't the Legends. That was just that
just
was a
general.
match that was going on. Yeah. That was
Oh,
because it was Punk and CM Punk, Luke Gallows versus I don't remember who it
I think
was.
it was Cena because they attacked Cena in that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. It might have been
Yes.
Cena and I don't remember who. Maybe it was. It might have been Punk and Punk versus Cena actually.
Yeah, I think it was Punk versus Cena, and he had Gallows in his corner. But I
Hmm.
remember they had a
Justin
version
Roberts. Yeah, he
Justin
was in
Roberts
there.
gets choked out, but
Yep.
I remember having the Nexus attack all these guys, and Steamboat was like one of the legends that got attacked. So that was my earliest memories of him. But then like watching some of his stuff from there on YouTube, like I'm like, thank God for YouTube, because
Yeah.
he's just unbelievable.
He always says his best stuff was never filmed.
Yeah,
So his best stuff with like Flair in the he said like the late 70s, maybe early 80s matches. He always says that's his best matches. Him and Jay Youngblood in the NWA who died too young. They had matches with like the Briscoes and Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernoodle. He said those are easily probably the best tag team matches he's ever had. I mean, they had a match that sold out and they had traffic closed down for miles. It was like Woodstock with people trying to go see it. So they could have filled like a $30,000 or 30,000 stadium. But yeah, it's amazing like how many amazing matches he was a part of and had over the years. And it was cool to get to see him do it in person, even if it was just a confrontation. But
yeah.
to see him throw those arm drags and chops and everything, oh man, that was really cool.
So who's your number four?
So my number four is the late great Flying Brian Pillman. So I knew of him in WCW. I was not a WCW watcher until I knew of it in 92, 93. I didn't really have cable till later. And also I couldn't really watch it. But so I knew of Pillman. I knew who he was. Uh but once he joined the Horsemen and became the loose cannon, I loved him. I was huge fan of his stuff in the Horsemen. When he went to ECW and showed up unannounced and threatened to piss in the ring, and had a little thing with Shane Douglas and with Mikey Whipwreck. Unfortunately, he got hurt. I had the Hummer accident, but then he went to WWE. He was teamed up with Austin for a little while with the Hart Foundation. I loved everything he did. I was a huge fan. I was real. That hit me hard when he unfortunately passed away in 1997. But the oldest shirt I own actually is a Brian Effin Pillman shirt from ECW
Oh, amazing.
that I actually bought uh, back in it must have been 96 or yeah, probably 96. And knowing what I know about ECW now, I probably called up and talked to Steven Richards on the phone.
That's amazing. That's
Ordered
so
my
cool.
shirt from him
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Devon Dudley or one of these guys. But
yeah.
yeah, it doesn't fit anymore because obviously I'm a little bigger than I was in 1997. But I'll never get rid of it.
You're still a
So
sexy bitch, Brennan.
as long as my wife thinks so, that's
As
what
long as
counts.
that's exactly that, man.
She's
Exactly
the one
that.
I got to impress.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's my guy, Brian Pillman. I'm not a huge fan of his son. I think he's kind of not great in the ring and hasn't really improved, and has some views I'm not a big fan of. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
I thought.
Pillman's my guy.
Yeah,
I've always
I thought his Dark Side of the Ring episode was very well done.
Yes, yeah,
Uh,
it really was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. Like they told a good story about him, and like you could tell that um, maybe he wasn't the best father, but I mean, a lot of
no,
these guys that were our heroes back 30 years ago, you're like they took wrestling so seriously that they didn't
yeah,
necessarily focus on their families, unfortunately. Um,
yeah, yeah. Plus, it's a
but
dark side of the ring. I mean,
yeah,
unless you're not going to have a happy ending, unless ironically, who was the one? The guy that slapped John Stossel, David Schultz. I think he was the only one that had a good ending
yeah,
because they talked about him as a bounty hunter and saving somebody that got kidnapped in Puerto Rico and bringing them home. It's like, all right, you know,
yeah,
here's a
yeah.
guy that's still alive and he's saving lives instead of overdosed on coke.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or
Yeah,
just killing yourself in general, like the Von
yeah,
Erichs.
yeah,
RIP. With Pillman Jr., I definitely agree. Like I feel like he got whatever they were doing with the Varsity Blondes, he got that because of his name,
yeah,
not because of his
yeah.
in-ring ability. And I
I mean,
never liked
yeah, he
him in the
trained
New
with
Heart Foundation.
nah,
In
not me either.
MLW, never liked him with Davey Boy Smith Jr. or Teddy Hart. I didn't like that trio, so
He trained with Lance Storm, I believe, too. So he had a good foundation. It's just, I guess he never really built on it.
yeah,
I think he did anyway. I could
yeah,
be wrong.
yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm on Brian Pillman Sr.'s Wikipedia page, so let me just double check. Uh,
I'd be remiss also to not mention his matches with Jushin Liger that were like the best lightweight matches in the US for many years until Rey Mysterio really came over.
oh wow, yeah.
So good that that's the first ever match on Nitro history.
Oh, Brian Pillman versus Jushin Liger.
Yep.
Wow,
And the Mall of America.
wow, that's amazing. Okay, so number three for me,
Mm-hmm.
bringing it more mainstream, I would say, I mean more modern, last 20 years, Kurt Angle. I loved Kurt Angle. First in WWE, he was pretty decent. His run in TNA, like just I feel like it put him on a whole different level than what WWE was doing with him.
Yeah.
So like instead of having these comedies and comedy matches and people saying like you suck and things like that, he came in and his first feud is with a young Samoa Joe,
Oh yeah.
and you're like the headbutt literally
Oh
changed.
my goodness. Yeah.
It changed everything for TNA, in my opinion. When they were able to score him, and then Christian Cage came
Yeah,
in
he was
for
pretty
like
soon
five
after that.
minutes.
That's right.
But yeah, his matches with Joe, insane. Matches with AJ, also insane. Like he did his part to put the young guys over,
Yeah.
and have good feuds with them. It was never. I mean, yes, he had plenty of runs and like his feud with Jeff Jarrett, including his wife Karen or ex-wife Karen, was a little like, yeah, didn't really need
But
that.
it
But
came up in the end. I remember they had a pay-per-view match, the two of them, around that Karen Jarrett time. That was a hell of a match.
mhm,
It might not have been, the 5-star classic, but they delivered. It was exciting the whole time.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
maybe his stuff with Oh, who was it? Frank Trigg wasn't so great,
That
but
some of the, you know what, like TNA is that's another that's for another podcast. Otherwise,
oh
we'd be
yeah,
here 8 hours. But um,
yeah, that's
uh,
for sure.
he just like some of his like you always thought he was the guy. Between him and Jericho, I was just like as those younger guys who weren't like Rock or Cena. I mean Rock or Austin. I was like those two other guys were friggin' believable.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Kurt Angle for me, I guess like I loved his like 2 out of 3 falls matches with Benoit,
Hmm.
Guerrero, uh his feud with Brock, like a young Brock Lesnar, was like
Yeah, that was great.
yeah, yeah, especially because it was like I remember Brock won I think it was the NJPW title, and then he was being kind of funky about it, so then they got Angle to come over and like do the job
Yeah,
to someone.
yeah, that was. I just read about that in a New Japan book. That was a whole debacle. They didn't have enough money to bring Brock back to lose the title, and then eventually they found a way to do it, to give it to Angle, to give it to Nakamura. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Who's your number 3?
So my number three is a very polarizing figure, a guy that's been in the news a lot over the last couple of years. That would be Mr. CM Punk. So I've been all in on CM Punk since the minute I saw him in Ring of Honor. He's one of those guys I could tell right away. All right, there's something special about this guy. It's not just that, he's having good matches, he does cool moves and blah, blah, blah. This guy, he has an it factor about him. He cuts a hell of a pro, especially back then. He was cutting hell of promos, and I've loved basically every single thing he's done since. I loved his whole run in Ring of Honor, his feud with Raven, his feud with and his trilogy with Samoa Joe, getting to be there for that third Samoa Joe CM Punk title match was like magic.
Wow, you were there. Hey, that's
I
amazing.
was third row.
Oh my
Love
god.
that match was that's one of the, if we ever do top 5 live matches, that's going to be one of them.
Yeah.
But then he had great feuds with like Jimmy Rave. The Summer of Punk was amazing. And then him going to WWE, and he was a guy who shouldn't have made it there. He wasn't a Triple H guy, a Vince McMahon guy, but despite everything, he got over. He got over huge. So I loved his whole run in WWE, from straight edge punk, straight edge society, all that stuff. And then myself, I'm straight edge as well, and I kind of learned a little bit about what straight edge is from listening to CM Punk give interviews about it. And I won't say like, oh, I'm a punk mark, so I got to be straight edge. It's something that I am nowadays, and I'm glad I learned about that from him.
I always ponder about that sort of thing too. Like the just to talk about the straight edge part and then go back into punk. But
Yeah,
like I know for like Rocky, bad comparison, but like when Rocky came out, uh like Stallone's in the Boxing Hall of Fame, and people say like how many boxers would have become boxers if they didn't watch uh Stallone as Rocky. And
that's
then
true. Yeah,
you see guys who are like straight edge, like CM Punk, or there's I think Henry Rollins is straight edge. I'm
I'm
not,
certain he is. Yeah.
and you just see like everyday Joes like you or me just being like, oh, if this guy can do it, like I want to be that way too, sort of thing. So
Yeah, it wasn't for me. Like I said, it wasn't like, oh, CM Punk straight edge, so I want to be. It was just like, yeah, I don't like drinking, not into taking drugs, and eventually I quit smoking, and that was it. So for, I don't know, 18 years or so, I haven't done. I've mistakenly taken. I've taken a sip out of somebody else's Jack and Coke, thinking it was mine, but for all intents and purposes, it's been smooth sailing from there.
do you
But
enjoy it? Not having like a
Yeah, I
beer or
don't.
anything like that?
No, I don't need it. I never liked beer.
Yeah.
I never liked the taste. I had bad hangovers from alcohol. So, I didn't need it to have fun, but then again, I'm also not a straight edge guy that's, I can't be around it, or I'm not against it or anything. Hey, if you want to drink, go drink.
Are you vegan
Don't
too?
drive. Hell no. No, I love my steak.
Because I know a few people who are straight edge, but like they're like apparently being vegan is a big part of like the full on straight edge part, and I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I could, man.
No, no thanks.
Yeah,
No.
that's too pure for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, for my memories of CM Punk, loved him as well. Loved his I loved everything that he did as well in terms of as we alluded to earlier, Punk versus Steamboat, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I loved his stuff in the Gathering as well. I always I always thought, you know what? He's a can't miss guy. Like the way that you would see him feud with Raven in ROH, I was like,
Yeah.
please carry that over to TNA because they had a
Yeah.
legendary feud. He
I
always
think they could have gone that way eventually. It wouldn't have surprised me if they were planting seeds for that, or would have done that. But then Punk left TNA and was like, that was that.
now to me like because their big feud in ROH was that Raven was like making fun of him for being straight edge, if I'm not
Uh,
mistaken.
it was more the opposite. Or at least it started the opposite, where Punk uh was straight edge. He called it better than you. And he said, Raven, like, you had a good career, but you pissed it away with drugs and alcohol. You could have been something. But I'm gonna make an example of you and be this big star, what you should have been. Because at that time, and I think ever since too, Raven was clean and sober by then. He was off the drug, or at least by the time he got to WWF, WWE, or whatever, he was off drugs, not drinking anymore or whatnot. But yeah, it was something.
Do you think Punk and Cabana can ever work things out? Because I loved
Uh,
the Second City Saints as a tag team.
I wish they would.
I thought
I
they were
loved Punk. I
fantastic.
loved Cabana. Yeah, as Second City Saints, they were awesome. They were, they came up together. They they even said they had a ROH shoot interview like together, and they said like, I'm hoping in like 30 years we could be, main eventing places together, and it's kind of sad that that didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like it totally went to hell. It's interesting too. Are you a fan of like current Punk or
Yeah, yeah, I definitely like what he does now. Yeah.
I guess the reason I'm asking that too is because uh for our marks that listen to the podcast, because we're big wrestling nerds,
Oh yeah.
what do you think of like has your impression of him changed since that whole feud fight backstage fight with the Elite, and like apparently he and FTR are a group, and then a leader on another show, and it seems
Mm,
like it seems like the media, wrestling media, sort of built him to be like this heel, and the Elite can do no wrong. Or if you're on Team Punk, it's the opposite. So
yeah. I didn't really know what to feel like that. I've For Punk, I've just been enjoying his work since he's come back. I'm just happy he's back.
yeah,
I mean, it sucked that that happened. I'm just hoping they're gonna make a lot of money off of it one day.
yeah. I found with that whole thing, if I'm completely honest, I didn't care that they were having this backstage feud. Like to me, I was like wrestling sort of like radio in the regard that it's always been about theater of the mind. And,
Yeah,
and so hearing that they have like these personal, like real life feuds with each other, it's like, don't care, just perform, just perform. So that brings me
yeah.
to my second, number two on my top five, which would be um, the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Oh yeah.
Probably, I would say, I'll just give you number one as well because they're basically one, two. Steve Austin is my number one.
Okay. Yeah, can't
So
go wrong with Stone Cold.
So those two guys, I've been like, as soon as I got into wrestling as like a 4 or 5 year old, those two guys were like my guys. I was like, just the way that they could work a crowd, the way that they could work matches. Um, Savage for me was like his feud with Steamboat, who I mentioned earlier, my top five. Um, just incredible. I remember being absolutely heartbroken watching old footage of the Mega Powers splitting up. Um, but like it was bound to happen because he was so crazy and like overprotective
Yeah,
of Liz that you were just like, yeah, it's gonna happen eventually.
the best characters are an extension of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I remember being gutted when you mentioned that the NWO was your stable. I remember being gutted when Hogan leg dropped Savage to start that whole thing. But then
That was the
Savage
opposite
eventually
for
joined
me.
them, right?
Yeah,
Sav,
yeah, he ended up joining them the next year.
yeah, crazy.
Him when they were trying to court Sting. Savage with Sting for a little bit, and then the two of them joined. But well, Sting came out with them, but screwed with them, and then never officially joined.
You know what? Actually, I would. Okay, so my top five so far has been uh, who is number five? Shit, I can't even remember.
You had Steamboat, Savage, Austin, Angle.
Angle. Uh,
Yeah, who was your fifth?
who was the fifth? I can't even remember. Got to go back and listen to my own listen to my own podcast. Yeah,
It'll come
but
to us.
yeah, it'll come to us. But I was gonna say, like, how could I not have Sting in there? Like, I friggin' love Sting. Sting was the man.
Sting was great. I'm very surprised he didn't go RVD either.
Oh yeah, RVD, another good option, man. Another good option. That's
Yeah.
for another. That's for another top five.
Yeah, like I said, these are my top five, but my top five can change at a whim like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, shit, I can't even remember who number five was. It may have been Angle. May have been.
that's funny. And that's why I wrote mine down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the problem with as as you can tell by now, when I do these podcasts, it's just off the cuff. It's just
Yeah.
first thing that comes to me. So who are your two and one?
So number two would be ECW, in my mind, ECW legend, LSD himself, Little Spike Dudley. I loved everything that guy did in ECW. He was he was amazing. He was 5'7", if that, 160 pounds or whatever. But when he came out to Highway to Hell, and they had him beating guys 3 times his size. It was so cool. I loved all of it. So I remember Bam Bam Bigelow throwing him into the crowd and him crowd surfing. And then I believe he upset Bam Bam. His feud with the Dudleys, with teaming with Axel and Balls, and was Tommy Dreamer and guys like that. His feud with Mike Awesome was some of my favorite matches in ECW. Austin Awesome just destroyed him, but he just kept coming back for more. And you know what? It was believable. The fans believed that if he hits that acid drop, he could win because they seen him beat guy. He beat freaking Viscera. He beat Kamala, like all these guys huge. It wasn't out of the realm for him to win. And then later in WWE, they kind of watered him down a bit, but he still had entertaining matches with Stone Cold Steve Austin uh, and the Dudleys and a few other guys. But yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Spike. I always have a place in my heart for that guy.
Yeah, the acid drop is probably one of my favorite
Yeah.
finishing moves. When we eventually do like a top five favorite finishers, that's got to be in there for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll
I'm
take
with you
notes
on
next time so I remember.
that.
And
And
then
then
who is number one for you?
number one, the king of old school, Steve Carino.
Oh, nice.
So these are, like I said, these are my top five in no order. It could change any day. But I loved Carino from, another guy from ECW when he came in and he was doing the king of old school and refusing to fight like everybody else, be hardcore in ECW. It was different. It was fun. And Taz beat the crap out of him. And he had a fun feud with Dreamer. And he actually got mainstream press for ECW where he interrupted Fred Durst during an Limp Bizkit concert. And I want to say either 99 or 2000. And Balls Mahoney came out and walloped him with a chair. And
I remember that. I
it was
remember
played
that.
all
Yeah.
over MTV and all these other places.
Yeah.
Back when MTV played music.
Yeah. Exactly.
But Carino was just he's an entertaining guy. He's fun. He gives great interviews. His matches, while you weren't going to get a 5-star classic or whatever, he was always going to be entertaining in the ring. I used to buy wrestling tuner interviews, and he was always an entertaining listen, had great stories and everything. And throughout ROH, just loved everything he did there. His feuds with Punk, with Homicide, he had some insane matches. And
Scum in
even in
2013.
Scum, in Scum, I loved Steve
To-
Carino.
Mott Spock, Tom's favorite stable.
Tom and Will's
Scum.
favorite stable, but
Yeah.
even the NWO Scum couldn't get me away from Carino. So yeah, he was and he still is a great guy.
Yeah. So to run it down, my top five was Angle. Question mark. Angle. No, maybe it was Angle. Maybe I started with Angle.
Yeah. No, Angle was number 3.
Angle's number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So Steamboat, Angle, Austin. Luger. Luger was number 5.
Luger was number 5.
Luger
That's
was
right.
number 5. Yeah. So it was Luger.
Who was your number 5? I don't know.
Luger, Steamboat, Angle,
Austin.
Who was the other guy? Who was number 2?
Savage.
Savage. Yeah. See, that goes to show what type of host I am, man.
I got Andre Pillman, Punk, Spike Dudley, and Steve Carino.
Oh, fantastic. All right.
Yeah, I remember that because I'm looking at it.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I should write notes down. Top 5 favorite gimmick matches. So, because I started the last one, you can start this one.
So this is another one I won't do like in order. These will just be like my top 5 favorite type of matches. So I would start with a because I'm a hardcore guy, a good old fashioned no rope barbed wire match. So I love when they take down the wire or take down the ropes, string up the wire, and just stuff's gonna go down. But like, I don't want to see just 2 guys that mean nothing. I want this to mean something. And I go back to like ROH had a couple of these, and again with my number 1 guy, Steve Carino, him and Homicide, their feud built forever. And then, they didn't settle it, but you thought they did at the time with took down the ropes and did a no rope barbed wire match. And it was, oh man, it was something. So yeah, I would go with that as number 5.
Nice. So no ropes, barbed wire match.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My number 5 would be the Royal Rumble. I love like that concept of just having basically like 30 or 40 or in WCW 60 in those World War III matches. Wrestlers come in, try and battle it out to determine who the best actually is. One of my favorite Royal Rumbles, which this will be the shortest podcast we've ever done, but I
You're
think
gonna
it
say 94.
was no, I was gonna say 2015. I think it 15 or 16, where Roman had to defend against everybody, where he was the champ.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that one wasn't bad.
I like that concept though, of like the champ himself has to run the gauntlet of like 30 different guys to go through. I mean,
Triple H won that one.
yeah, Triple H won that one against Dean Ambrose,
Yeah,
aka John
yeah.
Moxley, begrudgingly. But what I would have wanted to see, if I'm honest with you, is rather than have like all 30 guys come out, or all 40 or 60 or whatever, whoever eliminates the champ becomes the new champ. And then they just stop the match there, as opposed to like having like everybody come out and get a shot at it, because let's just say, for instance, I'll give you an example. When Brock defended the title against I think he had the title on the line when Drew beat him.
That was WrestleMania.
Was he defending the title that time at the
No,
Royal
he
Rumble?
wasn't defending it at the Royal Rumble. He just said, "I'm gonna run through everything so nobody wins, and I don't have a contender." And then
Oh,
Drew eliminated him.
yeah,
Drew
yeah.
and Ricochet, actually.
Ricochet kicked him in the you-know-wheres, and then
Yep.
Drew sent him over the top rope. Anyways, what I was going to say about that was that I would have rather, like, if the title was on the line, Drew eliminates him, but then Drew's first feud has to be with Ricochet, because Ricochet's like, yo, man, like, I helped you win the title, basically. So,
yeah,
hook
I
me
can
up.
get behind Drew and Ricochet. So
Yeah.
I'll throw that in as my top four or number four as well. I'm a huge fan of the Rumble. I tried to watch it almost every year since I can remember.
Yeah.
I stopped watching WWE for a while, but the Rumble was like the one event like I finished off with. I want to say that was 2021 when Edge came back, or when Edge won, Christian returned. Yeah, or maybe it was 20. Yeah, it was 2021. So I'm always a big fan of the Rumble. I'll still watch it to this day. Ironically, I did skip 2022, and I remember hearing that it was like one of the worst ones of all time. But I did end up attending one of them live with my wife and my best friend SJ. She came down for the 2018 Royal Rumble in Philadelphia.
You know what? I
And
run a
we got to
podcast with
watch that.
SJ. She doesn't tell me anything. Doesn't tell me.
Hey, she's lived a big life and done a lot of things. So yeah, but that was the one Nakamura won. There was also the first women's one where Asuka won. Rousey came out afterwards, and yeah, that was so good. That was one of their best Rumbles they've had. So I've always been a big fan of the Rumble. So I'm with you. Number four.
The thing I don't like about the one where Asuka won and then Rousey debuted is like they ruined Asuka's moment. Like, you never believed Asuka was gonna be successful in her challenge against like whoever the champ she picked.
I think it was Charlotte Flair, and
Yeah,
pretty much that's why it was not successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I could see why they did that. Ronda Rousey at the time was an unbelievable star, and that'll get you excited for what's to come. So, yeah, I could see the reasoning behind it. Hey, she was a bigger star than anybody WWE had at that point, besides John Cena.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
maybe not anymore, but. So, what do you got for number three?
Number three, or number four for me, would be Survivor Series. The original, the original concept of Survivor Series, of having these like random teams come together and battle it out. It really bothered me. I think it was last year for WWE, where every match was a singles match on Survivor Series. Like, it just seems wrong to me, because as someone who loves like team warfare and like tag teams and stables feuding with each other, having like all singles matches, like, are you kidding me here? Like, this makes no sense. The whole concept to Survivor Series is you're surviving a series of other opponents, and to
Yep.
have a singles match, to have 10 singles matches, it's like I can just see that on a regular episode of your weekly programming. Like it makes no
The
sense to me.
the only other time I remember them doing that is 98, but that's when they had the tournament for the vacant title that Rock won. They had like a huge tournament that night. I think it might have even been 16 guys, but it came down to Rock and Foley, and then they redid the Montreal Screwjob. Rock joins up with Vince, and blah 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 blah. I don't. I'm almost certain, unless they had a tag team Survivor Series match, they probably didn't have one on that one. But I'm with you. I love Survivor Series. I'm going to steal your pick again.
No worries,
I
man.
knew this was eventually going to happen, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm big fan. I love those old Survivor Series um, matches where it's just like the four random guys, and the promos are amazing. I always remember the Warrior one where his team is the Rockers and Neidhart, and he's like tearing them or tying them together as with tape and walking around them and like making them all as he called it a team and everything. But yeah, Survivor Series 90 is probably my all-time favorite event. I could literally name you every match. I love the Ultimate Survivor match. I thought that I really wish they would have brought that back one year, but now I know they'll never do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the debut of the Undertaker, also, and also the Gobbledygooker. But they all can't be wins. But yeah, I could literally like in my head, I'm thinking, hearing Vince McMahon yell, "Welcome to the, it's the Survivor Series," and then seeing the promos and all that. It was just so cool.
Yeah,
And
but
yeah, I'm with you. It sucks that they just don't do it like they used to, and they have a roster that they could.
yeah,
But
absolutely. Like a couple of years ago they did Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, and they had these teams,
that
and
was good. Yeah,
it
that
was really
was
good.
good.
It was
Yeah,
really good,
yeah.
man.
But I mean, I'm not a big fan of brand supremacy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. That was really good. I remember watching that. That's the night that like made Keith Lee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He ran through
Yeah,
so many guys with that. It
yeah.
was
He almost beat Roman.
it's unbelievable. I remember there was um one recently where like it was like Braun, Triple H, Kurt Angle, and then like a couple
Yep.
other heels versus like Shane McMahon and like a bunch
Ugh.
of other guys. Anyways,
Shane McMahon. It was Jericho when he was doing the list. Kevin Owens.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And they
Yeah,
walked out on him or something like that. Or
probably. Yeah, I just remember the promo.
I just remember like you always knew in that match that like it wasn't going to be good because authority was so dominant back then, and so
Ugh.
it's like, oh
Yeah.
my god, I didn't like that at all. For number three for me, I have this came to me recently, actually, thanks to you, from when we did our first ever episode, which was Cage of Death. I
Hmm.
love that concept of similar to war games. I love that concept of having like two teams just literally go to war and just try and destroy each other. It's amazing to me just seeing um I love that sort of war games concept, similar to Survivor Series, where you have these teams and they're just like, except it's like one guy starts and the next guy starts and two guys come in, three guys until they get to 10 each on either side. Um,
Yeah.
my favorite version of that, it wasn't quite Cage of Death or War Games, but when CZW fly ROH and
Yeah.
in '05, where Danielson turns on Joe, and then you're like, oh my god, who's going to save ROH from the big bad CZW? And Homicide comes out and like runs the
Yeah.
whole show, and
That
then
was a really great match with a lot of cool stories and everything.
yeah,
Even the aftermath with Cornette
yeah, very
and
hot angle.
Pierce turning
Yeah,
on Homicide, and
yeah,
yeah, it was something.
Yeah, it's excellent because it's like it's almost a combination of like a year-long feud,
Yeah,
it's going
yeah, it
into
was.
Cage of Death and things like that. Similar to
Yeah,
War Games, where you have these teams that are just they're trying to culminate the feud. It's it's interesting. What's your number three?
I'm just gonna go with cage match in general.
Yeah. Yep.
Like growing up, that was the pinnacle. Like you know, people would feud and feud, and they'd have DQs. They'd have countouts and everything, and eventually, like the feud would get so intense. Like the only way they could finish it is in a steel cage. I hate the I don't like the escape the cage rule. Never did.
Mhm.
I like the when it ends in the ring. You shouldn't be in a cage match. You shouldn't be escaping. You should be looking to finish your guy off. So yeah, I think my favorite cage is the big blue bars
Yeah.
from old school WWE. If yeah, so cage match definitely always hold a nice place in my heart.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for cage matches. I like the fact it has to end in the ring. I don't like this new version where uh once you enter the ring you can leave the ring and like I know AEW, which you both love, does that more frequently than
Yeah, they do that
WWE.
in, like the blood and guts.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't like that. Like you should not be allowed to leave the cage. Like it should be instant. If you leave by yourself, it should be instant disqualification or if
That's
a guy
true.
throws you out, then like you should be eliminated in that regard, But like
Yeah.
to that's how I feel about it. My next match is I like I've been watching a lot of like more old school wrestling recently, so having like a stipulation on the line, like a shaved head. So like shaving your opponent's head, the ultimate
Yeah.
embarrassment, or like taking your mask. Like I like those kind of concept matches where not only am I going to defeat you, but I'm going to take your pride with me. One match that really comes to mind, which I highly recommend looking up, is Aja Kong and Bull.
Bull Nakano.
No, Bull Nakano Sushi's facing, but Aja Kong. She had a death match. Bull Nakano. Hang on one second. Okay, this makes for great radio. I mean,
Mm,
Aja Kong and Bison Kimura versus Bull Nakano and Kyoko Inoue in a
mm,
hair versus hair death match.
mm,
To uh, This is from 1991 in AJW, All Japan Women's Wrestling, and the con- basically the story here was Nakano Nakano led this one stable with Kyoki Inoue, a few other Japanese wrestlers, and then Aja Kong and Bison Kimura came up together as a team in the training ground. And like Kimura was basically Aja Kong's only friend, and Aja Kong was an outsider because she's half black, half Japanese, so she got bullied mercilessly.
mm.
Bull Nakano accepts her into the stable, and eventually gets to the point where Aja Kong wants to lead, and Bull Nakano's like feeling threatened. So they have this insane feud for like 3 4 years where they literally try to kill each other. Like I know we talk about how it's kayfabe and everything, and like how Goldberg wanted to kill Luger or whatever. But
Yeah.
this was literally like she was choking her out to the point where like the cops came at one point for one of their matches because they thought like she was gonna try and like scalp um
Jeez.
Bull Nakano. Now if you watch ICW No Holds Barred, scalping is a
Yeah.
regular thing there. So
Yeah. Apparently.
so who the heck knows? But anyways, I like that sort of so to culminate the feud, um Nakano had like these very luscious locks, and Aja Kong had like this killer mohawk. So she was just like, "Yeah, I want to shave off your head." And it ended up being like Aja Kong and Bison Kimura versus like Olive Bull Nakano's stable, which was like picture like Bully Ray and Aces and Eights, like that level
Yeah,
of
yeah.
members. So it's like you're just not going to win. And so there's a famous scene near the end. Spoiler for anyone. This is from 1991, so like you can see it on YouTube. But Kong and Kimura just like are fully bloodied and they're getting their head shaved, and it's crazy. So I like that sort of thing, like a concept match like that.
That's cool. Yeah, I know that's a big thing in Mexico too. Like
Mhm.
they build for sometimes years to a mask versus mask match, hair versus mask, hair versus hair, all that stuff. So I mean, there are guys that never lost their masks, but have thousands or not thousands maybe, but dozens of masks. Like I'll go all the way back to like an El Santo who was literally buried in his mask, but also took the many masks as well. So yeah, I can get behind that one.
You mean they're not like CPA? We're under a mask is another mask, or under a suit is
I
another suit.
wish that would be cool.
So,
So
what's your match?
so if I have to go number one, I've been trying to kick around in my head what I want to go with. So I think I'm gonna have to go with uh I'm gonna go with Ultimate X.
Oh, nice.
I remember watching the original Ultimate X match, and while it was exciting and it was a cool concept and everything they did, the the original Ultimate X match had an X that they had to get to become number one contender, but they didn't realize yet how tight that you had to strap it down because it fell down twice in the match. It was the original one was Michael Shane, Frankie Kazarian, and Chris Sabin, and I believe Michael Shane won it. But yeah, just after that, they've it seems like Ultimate X matches are always very good. There was a time where it might have been overdone, where they did. It felt like they were doing one every other month, and for no reason. But it's always entertaining. Like AJ Styles had, Petey Williams had a unbelievable one. I think Saban was in that one too. And there's a famous clip of Petey drop kicking AJ and AJ doing some like somersault bump and looking like he's gonna fall on his head. But yeah, it was a cool concept. They really pulled it off after the first one, and yeah, it's always gonna be entertaining because they got the right guys always for it.
Yeah, I remember in April, Jordan and I and a couple of our buddies saw um Impact Rebellion, I think it was. And to open that card, it was Motor City Machine Guns versus ABC in which is Chris Bay and Ace Austin in
Yeah.
Ultimate X for the tag titles.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's how they opened the pay-per-view. And Jordan and I looked at each other. We were just like, how are they going to top this? Like that, like they just stole the show to start the show. Like this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like they're it's always crazy how they just like they'll climb the ropes, and sometimes some of these guys like they're so into the match they don't care that you're hanging above and you could fall at any minute and break your neck here if like you don't land properly, and it's very cool. It's very
Yeah.
well not cool that they break their neck, but very cool that
Well,
like
yeah,
that's
of
the match.
course.
Yeah.
So what do you got as number one then?
Number one, I have on my list because I'm taking notes while you're talking. I have Lights Out. I like that sort of
I thought
match.
about that. That's a good one.
It's more recent to me because of AEW, but I mean Kenny versus Mox was the first ever one where it was sort of like an unsanctioned, no rules, anything goes match. My favorite one, which is probably most people's favorite one, is Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. Uh, that match
Yeah.
that match was just insane. I remember Statlander coming out to help Rosa because she was sick of Rebel Not Reba interfering, and she just like gave her a package pile driver through a table. I think it was like
Yeah.
through a
Yeah.
hockey table or something like that. So that was crazy to me. Another one Actually, interestingly enough, of the matches that they've run, because they've run it a few times, the women's matches have been way better than the men's.
Yeah. Where they had the tag match. I think it was Bunny and Penelope versus who was it?
Tay and Anna.
Tay and was it
Eh,
Anna J? Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it was
was Anna
Anna.
J.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
one was brutal.
yeah. That
Yeah,
that ruled. If I can, not to swear,
it
but
definitely
effing
did.
ruled. It effing ruled.
Yeah,
The way that she like Anna J at one point has like barbed wire wrapped around her arm and gives
the
Bunny
Queen Slayer.
the Queen
Yeah,
Slayer. So like I know wrestling is I understand wrestling's fake for those of you who are listening to this and will tell me that it's fake. I get it. But there's a great visual where it looks as though the barbed wire on Anna Jay's arm is literally digging into Bunny's throat. So Bunny is like freaking out. Her face is covered in blood too, and like she's like tapping like crazy because like she's basically getting garroted. If
yeah,
so, which is insane. It's interesting too that we pick that. I mean that we're discussing that as like one of our favorite matches, given how much deathmatch wrestling we watch.
yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to recap, my top five: No Rope Barbed Wire, the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, Old Fashioned Cage Match, and Ultimate X.
And
So,
mine
quite a
are,
list.
yeah, quite a list all over the place there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, Mine are the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, Cage of Death slash War Games, and a Lights Out match.
Can't
So
go wrong there.
pretty cool. So our
I
last, do you want to do this as a last topic? Is that cool?
Yeah, I was gonna say I know we're running a little late on time, so do you want me to do my top five wrestling books and give you some history or some homework? Or
Yes, yes. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll go through it that way because I just before we start that, so
Mhm.
I really want to read a lot of wrestling books, but like this is all Brendan. This
Yeah,
category is all Brendan to close us out. He'll give us the top five and some history for us to
yeah.
listen to.
So I this once again is no particular order because all these books are unbelievable. So first I'll go with Listen You Pencil Nut Geek by Freddie Blassie. Freddie Blassie was a guy who worked for basically four different McMahons. He started in the Jesse McMahon days, went to Vince Sr., Vince Jr., and also his kids. So he that shows you how far back he went back to the carnival days in wrestling. He had unbelievable stories. It, and if you want to know like really what wrestling was like by then, that's a even though it was a WWE book and some of them could be, geared towards WWE, this was a cool read. And he talks about going to Japan. He was kind of like one of the first big foreigners over there. He drew some of the biggest gates of all time, I'm pretty sure the biggest most watched wrestling match of all time, him and the original most popular guy in Japan, Ricky Dozan. They had something like an 80 share over there. It was ridiculous. But yeah, I would 100% recommend that. He talks about wrestling from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's so many years. So if you want to know about wrestling history, that's a good place to start. Uh, and then I would go number two, the as some people call it, the original wrestling book, Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley. Uh, I would say it. I mean, I remember reading this and just not being able to put it down. It's like the first big autobiography. It was number one bestseller, and Foley. You really feel like you're talking to Foley. It's such a good book. So many stories. It holds up. It's a good reread as well. I've read it many times over the years. So, all of it, I mean, every book I've read by him has all been good. The his sequels have been pretty good, but nothing beats Have a Nice Day. Uh, I'm gonna for number three. I'm gonna loop a couple together.
Sure.
So Dave Meltzer wrote Tributes and Tributes one or two. They are basically Meltzer paying homage to some of the people that had passed away in wrestling. He gives you a huge backstory on them. Uh, tells you all their history, what they did, um, uh, who they were, what titles they did. So it was just such a good read. If you want to know about like the history of wrestling, this is tributes one and two were just so good. Uh, he also did a one called Top 100 Wrestlers of All Time. If you take the list for what it is, it's also a great read because once again, you just learn about 100 fantastic wrestlers.
So
Uh,
would you group all three of
yeah,
those
I would
in?
group all three of those just as one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm writing these
Uh,
down as you talk.
well, here's one you're not going to want to probably read because I know you. I would go with Bret Hart's autobiography. I know you're not a big Bret Hart fan, but that was he really held nothing back. He told tons of stories. It was a long read. He gets into everything. He talks about growing up in a wrestling family, unfortunately the dysfunction of his wrestling family. He goes into later in life when he has the stroke and concussions and everything, but you learn a lot about how he came up in WWF and his rise to the top. And it wasn't an overnight thing. He started in the WWF in like 1984 and five, I think. And he didn't win the title to 92, but so much great stuff happened in between. So yeah, that is definitely a good recommendation from me. Another good reread, but maybe not for you because I know you don't like Bret Hart for
No,
some
all
weird
right,
reason.
all right. Yeah.
uh,
I just think he's talked about way too much. Like that's what it's not so much that he's like a bad like I credit his in-ring, don't get me wrong. Like his in-ring is amazing, but just like if you go on wrestling social media, it's like Bret Hart, Bret Hart, Bret Hart, Bret Hart, CM Punk, Bret Hart, Bret Hart, Bret Hart, Bret Hart, CM Punk.
yeah, CM Punk and FTR have certainly brought him back to the mainstream. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, watch it. You were the era I one of the eras I came from. You were a Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels guy, and
Mhm.
I was always a Bret Hart guy. So
See,
stick
I
with
don't
Bret
like
Hart.
Michaels either, interestingly enough. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
I
I'm
never
just a
really liked.
psychopath. It
I
could be
I
that.
respect his late 2000 or his 2000s run when he came back and all the amazing matches he had and all that stuff. I just eh, not for me.
Yeah.
So I have to think of a number five, and they're. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was gonna say number one or number five. That's all I was gonna
Uh,
say.
or yeah, either number one or number five.
Yeah.
So there, I'll throw out a bunch of them. There are a
Sure.
lot of ones that are, maybe not my top five, but William Regal had a great book. Eddie Guerrero's book was very good. Um, the Hardys book was pretty good. These are all WWE ones. So if I have to go with an actual top five, I'm gonna go with the Andre the Giant biography that came out a few years ago. Andre's my guy, but this goes so far into his life. You learn about him growing up, him starting wrestling in Europe, how he came to North America, going to Montreal at first, how he toured in Japan, WWF, WWF, and all the other amazing things in his life. And this was just it's such a quick read. So I would recommend that for anybody. It was such a awesome read. So, and I know I'm leaving stuff out. So
Well, you're starting me off with a good list here. So
yeah, yeah, I would say so.
I'll have to, now that I'm doing blogging again, I could even read these and then do blog reports or blog book report sort of things.
Yeah,
I used to love those as a kid, actually, doing book reports. Like I was so excited to actually like write what I thought about these things. It was,
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
I hear you.
Yeah,
So
cool,
yeah,
man.
that's my top five. Blassie, Mick Foley, Have a Nice Day, tributes to, and the top 100. Just lump them all together.
Mhm. Uh,
Uh,
Bret Hart
Bret Hart,
autobiography,
yeah,
and then
and
Andre,
Andre.
and then
Uh,
the honorable mentions. Anyways, you were
yeah,
gonna say
honorable mentions. I did forget one. Brian Alvarez and I forgot the whoever I forgot the guy's name that ran wrestling site. I think he still does.
Wade Keller.
No, he runs WrestleCrap wrestling site. So they wrote the death of WCW, and it was a history into WCW and like everything they did wrong and how they uh how they fell from making tens of millions or however much a year to losing however much they did, which was like another tens of millions of dollars. So that one, especially if you're a WCW fan, that's a hell of a read. I'm
Uh,
gonna find that guy's name.
Nice, yeah. I'll look into that too. I was definitely into WCW back in the day. Like I remember watching Thunder all the time on Thursdays, and like I felt like as much as I love Stone Cold, I
Mhm.
always felt like I've always liked the alternative to WWE. So having like I know for a few years before TNA came to the forefront as number two of the wrestling hierarchy, it always felt like once WCW went out and ECW went out, that you were like forced in a way. Like if you wanted to
Yeah,
keep the wrestling going, I know a lot of people who they say they fell out of wrestling right after WCW and ECW were bought by WWE because it was like I didn't like the WWE, so therefore I'm not going to watch it, sort of thing. And
yeah, yeah. I get you. RD
so
Reynolds was the other guy's
RD
name.
Reynolds.
He
Okay.
he used to run a site called WrestleCrap in the I think it started in the late '90s, but the mid 2000s, early 2000s, and he just talked about all the worst wrestling. And he would weekly he would put up, like the worst stuff. So it was a fun read every week to read about the gobbledygooker, arachnid man or nails, all this stuff.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah, that's great.
yeah,
That's great
so
because like wrestling's you know, I hear this more recently on podcasts about how like wrestling is for everyone.
mhm.
And so there's always something that you can find. Like not everyone's gonna love like uh a Brian Danielson versus Okada match, let's just say. Like
No.
or FTR versus the Briscoes, for instance. Like you're not gonna love those things. You may love like Grado versus Spud or like stupid stuff like that, you know? so, so
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. There's something for everybody. If you want
yeah.
a pure match, if you want a hard hitting, you want submissions, you want death match. Yeah, wrestling's for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And on that
Unless you
note,
want to watch Larry Zabisco. Ugh,
yeah,
that should be for nobody.
only our pal handsome Kevin can watch Larry Sabisco and we'll still respect you, Kevin.
Don't understand it, but
Yeah,
love him for it.
yeah, exactly. Anyways, Brendan, always a pleasure doing this, man.
Always a pleasure. This was a fun one, and we're definitely we got a ton of topics, so we definitely got to do this again.
Yep. Yep. We'll be back. We'll be back doing more wrestling talk and talk about wrestling. Sorry, that's a different podcast that we love.
Yeah, I'm not
Phrase.
gonna steal that one.
Nope. We'll come up with our own catchphrases, and yeah. So this has been Brundan for Brundan. I'm Eric. You can catch this and every other wrestling episode on the Nattering with E Network on Saturdays. Because if you're about to hurl from taking a tilt-a-whirl, your ears better be glued to the Nattering with E podcast network.
See ya.